Moving
Ladies
right.
and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be in this world. Today, with me on Corsi Talk Shows, I have Shireen Lovegrove. Hi, Shireen. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
Always good. It's been a while.
It has been. I was saying to Nomsa, I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah,
You've been
yeah.
doing some stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been busy with school and
Yeah.
end
Yeah.
of year schools and exams and stuff like that. So had to disappear a bit. All right, so today we are discussing life purpose, one of my
Yeah.
favorite subjects, as you know that.
Yes. That's exactly what I said. I said the perfect person to be talking about life purpose. Yes.
Right?
You even did your
Um,
dissertation on life purpose and seeing how that
right?
affects
Didn't
people.
it? That's
So
it. That's
hopefully you're going to
exactly.
talk about that
Yeah.
a little. That would be great.
So yeah, exactly. So we're talking about life purpose, and um, one of the things that I find constant, and I'm hoping to coin the term, which is uncovering your life purpose, not
Right.
finding it, not searching for it, not
Hmm.
discovering it, but
Yeah.
uncovering it. And
Yeah.
we've discussed this together several times, especially when I was writing my dissertation.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of discovering your life purpose and finding it, it's just odd to me. It doesn't make sense,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
right?
I think, yeah, there is such a subtle difference, isn't it?
Yeah,
By finding and going and seeking, it's almost like we're going on this quest outside ourselves, right? But when we say we're uncovering, it's like there's something that we've already got,
exactly.
and now we're looking into, right?
Yeah,
So this is a slightly different. So one is like this, in the tarot, the fool's journey. I'm going on my journey, 1 1 1 1 all the way. And but actually it's really a stillness. It's about coming towards oneself and really looking at our gifts and our what we bring, right? And
exactly.
and what we've been doing in our life that then starts to make sense of what what our life purpose is. But we've got to recognize them, right?
That's
Otherwise,
correct.
otherwise we don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned like what are we good at, right? So like our talents, our skills, skills, of course we can improve them, but talents, they're innate to us, right?
Yeah.
And what can we, I mean, like the Japanese, they call it ikigai, and we've
Yeah.
spoken about that several
Yeah.
times, I believe, on the show. And the ikigai is based on four questions, which is what do I love? Um, what does the world need? What can I get paid for? And what am I good at?
Mm.
And you put them in different circles, right? And you know, if you draw the
Yeah.
circles they interconnect.
Yeah.
You'll find a part of you which is where what you're good at and what you love, that becomes your passion, or that is what your passion is about. What you love doing and what the world needs is more of a mission in life. What you want to do or for the world, and what you can get paid for, and what the world needs, that is a vocation, perhaps your career, your job, whatever it is, or something special, right? And then what you're good at and what you can get paid for, that is your profession. And then if you combine all of those together, there's a small ecliptic in the middle that becomes your ikigai, your purpose in life. And purpose, a lot of people think that purpose is just set in stone and that's my purpose throughout my life. I'm going to have kids and I want to be a parent and that's my purpose for the rest of my life. I kind of disagree because I mean, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you've got you're a psychologist in neurology, right? And the brain consistency changes. I think it was every
Mm.
7 years,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you develop more, right?
Yeah. 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 I think there's for me, and maybe this is kind of more sitting in the esoteric sort of space, is I do believe that it's no coincidence that we come into the world at this time, right? With
Hmm.
these parents in these situations,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that in some ways we were created because we were created in that situation, right? Now we
Hmm.
can say yes, we were in another lifetime and we came through. But what I really think is that the makeup at which we come is going to decide for us a lot about how our purpose is going to start to manifest. And I do believe it manifests right from the very beginning of our life, really.
Correct. Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
may have, one purpose might be to learn to be ourselves, right?
Mhm.
So this is where I think you were talking, we may have different purposes along the way, but there will be one core theme, but
Yeah.
they will all intermingle in some way. And
Mm.
I think when you start to really look at purpose, most people think of purpose to do with work, right? To
Yes.
do with a doing action. They don't think of the purpose of a being action.
That's it.
So it's kind of like when you say, what do you love? So what do you love is what I be, what I
Mm.
am, right? So if you're restricted on what I love and not doing what you love, then your soul dies. Your soul finds it really difficult to handle that. So you're now fighting something that's intrinsic within you because you're not happy. You're not fulfilling and expanding and becoming light, which I
That's
think
it.
if you're with your purpose, you are light. You feel that you're in the space, you live in the space. And I think that, and I think if you listen to anybody that's had a life purpose, they'll say, well, I had to go through many phases to get to, say, my work life purpose. Some people get it straight away. They
Mm.
get their profession, they want to do it, and that's it. But even those people in those professions often start to specialize in different areas,
Yeah.
right? So they may say, I'm a doctor and I really love being that. But then after a while, they'll get a certain set of clients that'll come in or whatever. And they'll start to find they get interested in that, right?
Yeah.
And so that starts to build excitement. And so they start to deviate, but they're still a doctor,
They're
maybe.
still there. Yeah.
They're still a teacher. They may be still one of those things. So that intrinsic core bit is still there. But now they've used it to channel it to their special gift that
Mm.
that the world needs, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this thread that you're born with that then brings, at the initial part might be about love. What are you loving and being as a child? That is with your innate talents
Yeah.
and whatever. And then you might start to deviate to, okay, well, I'm in work, and then you start to develop different things. You might, and so, certainly with love is what can I earn?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about purpose with what they earn. They just go into a job, and that has been historic, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
now we're going, I want to do a job that I like at least,
Exactly.
right? Um, but that may not be attained to a purpose yet.
No, definitely not. You see, it's that I like that part that you were talking about because, I mean, funny enough or not funny enough, coincidental or
Yeah,
synchronicity,
yeah,
whatever you may call it, that's how it was for me. Like my first job was a customer service for Microsoft,
yeah.
and within the first training, the first month and a half that we had, I had already gathered a group of other customer service agents that were gathering around me and like, please explain this and tell me that and tell us this because I had already read the booklet and understood it and I could explain it better than the trainers that we
Yeah.
had. And then within, I think it was 3 to 6 months, one of the supervisors, so not even a team leader, but a supervisor above them, just grabbed me by the hand and said, "Come on, come here, come with me." And he took me into a training room one day, and I was just his assistant helping him out. And then slowly, he just threw me in the deep end with the new trainees and all of that. And I ended up training for about 2 years, a whole set of customer
Yeah.
agents in
Mm.
different languages. And you see, I found out that I was passionate about it. I didn't need to study. It was things that came to me like
Yeah.
like this, and I loved it. And then throughout life, I said, "Well, this is amazing. This is what I'm enjoying. I love it. It doesn't feel like a burden,
Yeah.
and
It doesn't
um,
feel it's work, but it's not
it's
work, isn't
worth
it?
it." And like, I didn't need to sleep. I just could do this on and on and on and on. And then the other job, I became a training specialist afterwards for another call center where I was focused on training and all of that. I even got the position of a training manager, but I refused it because I don't want to be a manager of trainers. I
Yeah.
want to do the training. And then NLP and coaching and
Yeah.
psychology. And so you see, it's like you're explaining, it's that deviation. It's still taking care of people. It's still educating people. It's still helping people,
Yeah.
but in a different way or a more
Yeah.
specialized way, like you were mentioning.
Mm.
And I think that's the key take in life purpose, where you're capable or you're able, depending on how deep you dig into yourself,
Mm.
to hone onto that skill and the talents and that passion that you have within you,
Mm.
where a job doesn't become a job anymore. It becomes like a hobby for you.
Yeah.
It's no more that, oh, I'm going to work. And it's not going to work. It's, oh, I'm going to do something fun.
Yeah.
And
And you don't mind getting up and struggling or
right,
doing
that's it.
it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to be doing something I love, which is, you, anyone. I used to know my mom used to hate going to work because she didn't like the job that she
Mm.
was in, particularly. Paid a lot. A lot of people sell their souls for something that pays a lot, but it doesn't do
Yeah,
much
yeah,
for your
yeah.
soul. So, unfortunately, but she would be late every day. We would have to struggle to get her out the house to get her to work, which was really interesting. And it was an interesting thing. I mean, from my story, like when I went to school, I was incredibly good at maths. I was incredibly good at accountancy, and I loved accountancy. Both my parents were bankers. So in some ways, I was like a duck in water. I really on water. I loved doing anything that was totting up balance books, right?
Do you want to do my tax report every year?
So these totting ups and things like that, I'm not so good at keeping the accounts, but I can I
Yeah.
can do the auditing. I'm really good at those sort of things. Anyway, but I went and did I then went from school after uni. I went to school to work in a bank, and I hated it.
Mm.
And I found myself just one day looking at an article, nurse. Went in, and that was it. I became a nurse, right? And it was the easiest thing for me. It was
Mm.
flow. I was the only one that went around the whole of the hospital, a 3,000 bed hospital, that I went into every particular specialist unit
Wow.
during my nursing
Yeah,
training.
yeah, yeah.
So I really got to kind of know the whole body as a system, right?
Mm.
That was great. It was wonderful doing all of those things. Hard, yes. But what I started to realize that as later on, because I then went to MIDA and went onto other things, and intensive care, but what happened was there was one part in my life where I kind of really loved. I loved intensive care, but I loved pregnancy. I
Mm.
loved babies. But then later on in life, I suffered with infertility, right?
Mm.
So I found it very hard to actually, after a while, keep telling moms when they would say to me, well, have you got children? I started to develop the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I denied my journey of love, right? I went back and moved into other things and kept staying away from the thing that I was really good at.
Yeah.
Because when I was a student midwife, basically, that from the day I walked into the labor ward, I mean, I'd had about 3 months of being in the college. In labor ward, I was already in charge of my shift. I was already looking and doing all the assessments that were going on because they just decided, because I was natural, right?
Yeah.
It was my natural place to be.
Exactly. That's it.
And it was only when sort of a couple of years ago that I actually started to think, I'm not happy.
Mm.
I'm really not happy. And I was busy doing I went back and someone asked me to do some pregnancy work. And I came back home and I said to my partner, this is what I love. This is what I am good at. And it was like I just knew how to hold this person in a particular way.
Mm.
And that was then I started to think about that and go, wow, this is the calling that has been calling me. And I have been going outside trying to find everything else to fill it. But this was calling and it keeps calling you. And I think your real life purpose keeps calling you. You find
Correct.
that your path keeps moving, like you're saying, you started to do training, you started to do teaching, and you started to move into those things. But the core, you said, I'm not a manager, I'm a teacher, right?
Yeah. That's it.
So there is an I am statement of
Yeah.
who I am. So this tells me, like, let's do this unfolding, right?
Mhm.
Who am I? Where, in what circumstances am I being where and I'm going to use that word being, where am I being each time that brings me joy?
And that's it. I think that's the key. Where am I being? Where it's not who am I, but where am I being? You
Yeah,
know, like it's the common sense of we are human beings,
yeah,
not human doings.
yeah, yeah.
Right? And coming to that identification, people you ask them what you do, or what who are you, or what is your who are
Mm.
you, what do you do, right? And people say like I am an accountant, I am a doctor, and they identify with their jobs rather than identifying with the being that they are, all right? um you are a conscious pregnancy helper. You are a person that helps other women during their pregnancy, right? That's what you be, basically.
And when I'm being there, that's what I'm doing. I'm working
Right?
as an essence for them, right?
Exactly. And I think that's the core of it, where I think there was it's a while back, there was a survey or a statistics done about the percentage of people that stay within their to put it in simple terms, that just deal with the cards that they've been dealt, and they don't go searching for anything deeper into their life. They don't go into the core of their purpose, or which I like to call your motto of purpose, or your protocol of life.
Yeah.
And I think the statistics was between 89 to 92% of people just stick to the path that they have without digging deeper, without looking into their talents or their passions or their skills or what they're good at or what they love. And I can see it around me all the time. I can see people doing jobs like, I mean, like your mom, she hated her job, right? And
Yeah.
she had to do it because she wanted to earn the living. She wanted to put bread on the table. And many people are doing that, and it's killing their soul. It's just, and you look at them and it's like, Why are you here? Just quit." And no, I'm not a quitter. I don't want to quit. And it's like, this is rubbish. If you don't enjoy something, why persevere into torturing yourself?
Mm.
You're poisoning your own soul. You're poisoning your body, your mind, and your lifestyle just for the sake of money. I mean, at the end of the day, money does come and go. And yes, you have to pay the bills. But I'm a strong believer that if you let go of what doesn't serve you, what will serve you, what you do love, what you are passionate about will come along.
Mm.
Like the martial arts, in martial arts, they say, when the student is ready, the master shall appear. And the
Yeah.
same is with anything in life. And when it comes to purpose, I think there's I don't really want to use the word, but there's a need for human beings to understand that their existence is not as like
Arbitrary as
arbitrary or benign as it may seem. If you look at the world, at the planet, at everything exists for a purpose, for a reason. Everything has meaning. And if your meaning in life is just to wake up at 6 o'clock, go to
Mm.
work at 8, clock in, clock out at 5, come back home, sit down, have a beer or have a chat, do the dishes, take care of the kids, put them to bed, and then sit in front of the couch
Yeah.
and do some housework and stuff like that. If this is your life, I mean, and you enjoy it, fair enough, that's fine. But that's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
yeah, I think what you're saying there, sorry to interrupt that.
no, no, go ahead.
I think what you're saying in that moment is that people are living sleeping lives.
Yeah,
They're sleepwalking
they're
because
sleepwalking, exactly.
you're in the program
Mm,
and there's no change,
yeah,
right? And I think that if we think about an animal,
yeah.
this, when we're in our emotional body and we're not changing, we're not evolving in any way, then we're literally doing what an animal does for its basic needs to be met, right?
Mm, 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 mm.
But we did happen to evolve
That's
beyond
it.
that. We managed as humans to evolve and that can have both positive and negative aspects
Yeah.
to it, because obviously when we live in fear and things like that, then we go to a place of surviving. We won't evolve necessarily unless we can shift it so that we can find another way, right? If we can shift the mindset to that spot, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that in general, what happens is what makes us unique is our ability to conceptualize something. And I think depending on what's going on with people in their sleeping lives,
Mm-hmm.
the call to comfort is really great. The call to
The
stay
call
the
to
same.
comfort.
Because
Yeah.
remember, from a neurological perspective, all babies are primed. They are primed to habituate to things so that they look at new things, right?
Yes.
You've got kids, you know how they got bored so quickly. So quickly, because they're meant to do that. They learn fast and they habituate, which means that they will shift attention. But
Mm-hmm.
for us to, like, when we want to build a talent and a skill, we have to be able to manage to stay there for a while so that we can build neural networks.
Yeah.
But the paradox is, if we stay too long there, we build that neural network too strong, right? And so we end up staying in that pattern rather than doing what we should do, is have a limit on it so that we can then be flexible. And I think that what happens is people get too comfortable because they've built and overused those muscles in that particular way, that, and it becomes almost impossible for them to conceive that there is another way out, right?
Yeah.
And then of course it's, well, if there's another way out, what's the effort, or
What's the effort?
what's the effort it's going to take, and how will it destroy this?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the major aspects that prevents people from digging deep into purpose, is that what will it destroy around me? Who will be affected? And they're worried because of that comfort zone. They're used to it. It's become, your spot on your spot on the couch. Like, nobody said, this is my spot on the couch. I don't want to sit there. I don't want to sit anywhere else apart from my spot. And what happens is that cutting off people in your life, that's scary. And it's not something easy to do. And I think that's also one of the reasons, as you were mentioning, that really prevents people from moving ahead. I mean, you could end up ending partnerships because of that discomfort, because of you evolving beyond that point of comfort. Your partner is used to one thing, and then suddenly you become different after
You
several
change the
years. You
contract.
change. Exactly, you're changing the contract.
Oh
And
God.
they're not understanding, like, why are you changing this? I've known you like that. Yeah, but I've evolved. I've become a different person. No, but you have to stay. No, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable anymore. I want to explore something that is uncomfortable, something that can challenge me, something that is different, something that can bring joy and breath into my life. And it's not comparing it to, that saying, the grass is
The
always
grass is
greener
greener
on
on
the
the other
other
side.
side.
Yeah.
It's not really that. It's more about understanding yourself and exploring that part of you that wants more from life than just sitting stagnant and rotting.
Yeah. And I think what, and I'm sure this is something happened for you, but for me, I certainly know that when you start to explore, something drives from within you.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
So
definitely.
the changes start to happen because almost outside your awareness, the change starts to happen. You start to get more and more impulse to shift.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting when I have clients that come in. One of the things that I really find is that, so for example, like if something, so someone comes for a smoking thing or something like that, getting them to connect to the purpose is so important, because that helps the internal motivation for them to be committed to their health, right? Or
Exactly.
to be committed to this. A lot of people that are in habits, particularly with someone else, I mean, in relationships with someone else, they often have they have shared habits that they like to do together that keeps them together,
Yeah.
right? I mean, one of the things when I stopped drinking, for quite a while, it was quite hard for me to stop until I realized actually something inside me said, no, your relationship's not going to bust just because you stop drinking. Yeah, he's going to have to drink on his own if that's what he wants,
Yeah.
right? But you can still be there. You just have to find a different type of drink, right?
Exactly.
But this is about the connection. This is
That's
about
it.
what connects you to that person. But what happens is once you start to go in and think about this is what I want, or this is I want to connect to my mission, I want to unfold, I want to do something, it does it for you. The moment you give it, in the brain, you've got this part of the
It just
brain that says, oh,
explodes.
I'll do a transderivational
Yeah. Yeah.
search. I'm going to go and look for ways that I can show up. And it's so crazy. It's so crazy. And I certainly also know we talk about a honeymoon period
Yeah.
in marriages, like 18 months to 2 years, where everyone is still high in the endorphins. And then they come back down and all of a sudden they're fighting like hell.
Yeah.
But that's really your mission. There's a mission in there, which is really saying, I want you to get rid of all the shit here.
That's
You
it.
want a safe place for you to get rid of the shit, right? And that's what the mission is. So you in that relationship, that's why the honeymoon period ends, so that you can evolve and create a new mission together.
And that's it. That's very true. I like that part where you're saying everything just comes out and explodes as soon as you start looking into it. And I remember it happened to me when after my divorce and everything, and it took me a bit of time. Of course, I had to grieve and all of that. And the moment that the interesting thing is that before even the divorce, about a year and a half, 2 years before the divorce,
Yeah.
my brain was already in that search of something's not right. Something's like look into this a little bit, read about this a bit, find this out a bit, and usually out of curiosity or something was not clicking with me. And then I realized that once the divorce had gone through and all of that, I was like, you know what? No, it's not that. I'm looking for something deeper. That relationship doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
That relationship is unhealthy for me.
Yeah.
Whatever happened in the past, there's a reason behind it for me to get my kids, for me to learn through that process and go through that experience so that I can evolve into the person. And that person suddenly decided, you know what? I need to study. I need to go back to the roots of what I enjoy. I had written like a 2 or 3 pager when I was 18 about purpose, funny enough, right? And I didn't understand it in that context of purpose. And once I started searching for what I wanted to study, doors opened up and I found out about, I didn't find out, I had known about NLP for like 10, 15 years. But then suddenly there was a discount here and there was this down here. And then when I started studying, my course was a full NLP practitioner, master, and life coach, right? And I think it was 180 hours of studies. I finished it in 2 months. I was like, bam, 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 with the exams, with everything. And then after that, I said, that's not enough. I need more. I want more information. Then I took my trainer, my NLP trainer course, and then I took my life purpose course. And that's when things started to stick together. And then once I finished that, I was like, do I want to help actually? I've thought about helping people that just got divorced. Because I've been through, it's the experience that once I want to help people that have gone through this experience. And then I realized while I was doing that, no, that's not really what I want to do. It's deeper than just that divorce part. And that's when the pure life purpose of people came into play, where the dissertation that you kindly supervised me with about mid-managers, right? Because they're the ones that are struggling with life purpose mostly. they're stuck in between people, in between bosses and between the employees, and they're just doing the job because they have to
Yeah.
do it, right? And then my master's, exactly, that came along, and then everything just started to walk that way. And the amount of people that I had to drop off on the sides because they were not
Mm.
fitting into that protocol of my life purpose of educating people, of helping people, of gathering people around me that have evolved to a plane where they want to evolve even more, and there's continuous learning. Like every time I have a chat with you, there's always something that clicks with me, that I learned something new, that with Grant, with Amanda, with everybody that we talk with, there's always
Mm.
something new for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for me, this is the joy of purpose, because you always find that challenge in your life that is interesting, and it's not a challenge that pushes you down, but it's rather a challenge that lifts you up and that you're excited about.
Mm.
It reminds me, like, I get bored easily. I've got ADHD, you know that, right? And I get bored easily. Like we have these passionate things for a week or two, and then we get suddenly bored out of things because that and work has always been for me like that, apart from training. The only job that I ever had as a proper job was training people, or when, like now, last year and a half when I was an English teacher. This is the only thing that was enjoyable for me where I didn't get bored, where I found myself challenged. It's
Mhm.
because it has a connection, like you were saying, to purpose. And I really hope that a lot of people start looking into that, because I think it makes a difference in life.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It does. Yeah. And I think it's a life well lived
Yeah,
rather
definitely.
than a life just lived, right?
Exactly, right?
And I think there's something about going ahead forward and thinking of your deathbed. And I know it's a gruesome thought, but thinking, well, can I happily look back and see? And it's not really about looking back to see what you've achieved. It's looking back to see what you've been.
Exactly.
And really, that's the thing. How have you been in your relationships? How have you
Mm.
been at work? How have you been? How have you shared what you know, what you are? How are you sharing you, right?
Mm-mm.
These are all the things that, and most people that have out of body experiences or, near death
Yeah.
experiences, they will always come back remissioned,
Yeah, that's very true.
always come back knowing that there's more, and they do, and often you get a life perspective at that point, and so you do a little deviation, and that's a very different way of perhaps looking to see. Oh, you don't have to die yet. You can at least, we're lucky as humans, we can go forward in time and we can
Mm.
look back because we see the consequence. We're able to see, that happened, oh, this is the consequence of that. This is the consequence of that. And then we can make a different choice because we can move into another parallel universe. We can use into a different one that is already created for us, but we just haven't taken that opportunity yet. We've not opened that door.
Definitely. And that's the,
Yeah.
like, when you're talking about looking into the future and I mean projecting ourselves in the future, there's one thing that I use a lot with my clients, and I think I used it a couple of days ago with Sigun when he was live with us, the gentleman that we were four of us. It was Amanda, myself, and Grant, and we were coaching him live, and it was wonderful, wonderful chat. It's, if you were to wake up tomorrow with no worries of money, living, no worries whatsoever. You had everything that you wished for
Mm.
and you were happy. What would that life look like?
Mm.
And that futuristic view of waking up with no worries whatsoever, I think is a start. It's a key to that. Okay, so it can be materialistic at the beginning. Once you start looking into it, it become most people have, oh, I want this house, I want this car. They start looking at these things, and then bit by bit, they start looking at the people they want around them,
Mm.
the job that they want, the dream job that they want, which is connected to their passion usually, and talent, and
Yeah.
nothing related to money, because they've got all the money in the world. And they start looking into these aspects that we're talking about that are engraved deeper within yourself since you were a kid. And I think that helps a little bit because it's the starting point.
Mm.
As well, in NLP, we use the outcome specification, right? And the first question that is asked is, in a positive sentence, describe what is it you want to achieve. And it has to be in a positive frame. And so let's say if somebody says, I want to lose 10 kilos, no, that's not positive. What do you want to achieve? I want to be, let's say I'm 80, I want to be 70 kilos. Perfect. Then you go through the steps of, okay, so how can you achieve this? Do you have resources? Do you have the training? Do you have this? Do you have that? And it's breaking down slowly the aspects of your life that can contribute to that purpose that you want to live.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and I think it's really important, as you're saying there, you're giving a structure as to how a start, looking forward for something to ignite, right?
Yeah.
Is the word that puts puts a fire in you.
That's it. Puts a
Literally,
fire in you.
right?
Exactly.
So when you know you have nothing to worry about, nothing that's going to hold you back in any way, and you can just let the pure inspiration of what it is. This is where the soul says, hey, I'm going to give you a picture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know. And that a lot of people find that really difficult to go there, right? Because they can't get away yet from all the responsibilities or all of that, because there's that part of them that is afraid that if they didn't attend those things, that disaster would happen. So they don't even give themselves permission to go
That's
into
it.
that
Permission, yeah.
space. But what we're not saying is going into that space. It's just an imagined space, right? So what we really need to do is, when we go into that imagined space, is saying to them at that point, your responsibilities will have been taken care of.
Yeah, definitely. That's
All
it.
the things that you experience now, you will have sorted them out.
Yeah.
Because I think if we don't make it explicit enough, sometimes because they're stuck.
That's it. It's
Quite simply.
incomprehensible for them that they can't
Yeah,
fathom it.
that's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah, it's not even possible. So to ignite it is to be able to find a way, and I think that's the skill of a therapist or somebody that really is inquisitive, that's able to say, hey, hold on a minute, there's something holding you back from seeing that image, right? Let's go with what's not letting you see. Okay, so what's worrying you? Right, that. So if that was sorted out, what would that do?
What would that be? Exactly.
So you would keep going back and forward until they hear, this is a future that we're looking at, that this has already been sorted out.
I think that you
So
mentioned it
often.
perfectly. It's that curiosity
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's a therapist, a psychologist, or a
Yeah, it
coach,
doesn't
but
matter.
it's
Yeah.
the individual themselves. If you're not curious about yourself as a human being, then you're
Yeah,
just
you got a
judgmental,
problem.
right? You've got problems. You have to be curious to understand yourself and understand others and know where you're going with life.
Yeah, you do.
I think a lot of people are missing that curiosity part, and they just look at things as they are, and they perhaps judgmental, whether it's personal judgment or looking at things as they are with a perceived view.
Yeah,
And
that's all
they
conditioning,
stop being
isn't it?
curious. They're conditioned, right?
They're
Everybody's
conditioned,
conditioned.
and I think we do need to understand that, it's not their fault that they've been
Correct.
conditioned that way,
Yeah,
right? Because now that the moment you give them an idea that of something new, immediately resistance kicks in,
yeah,
right? Because that's what they've been conditioned to do. That's what they've experienced in their life.
definitely.
So it's very hard for them sometimes to even be hopeful that
Yeah,
there's potential. But if someone walks into a therapy room, if someone walks and asks for help in some way, their soul is calling, is asking, right? So in
yeah,
some way, we've got to, as a therapist, we're the ones that have the skills to, or as a coach, doesn't matter. Somebody that knows how to work with people, and it doesn't have to be a coach. It could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be anyone. I mean, what's her name? Nancy Klein, her father always used to say, what do you think, feel, and want to do? Those were the three things every question he would say, okay, if something was really awful, he would just say quietly, well, okay, just tell me what you think about this. So what do you feel about it? And what would you like to do? And then he would ask the questions again and again. And he was not a therapist, but he was just a person that knew how to ask questions. So there's something about how do we learn to ask questions for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
That we can begin to develop that mindset that allows us to be curious and to kind of go, oh, I'm not feeling, something's not right. Okay, I'm going to ask some questions around this and not be afraid of that, of what it's going to do. Yeah, I think
that curiosity, the questions to ask is very important. And it's I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get answers, right? That's the very simple.
That's very, very simple.
And it's and we say that to children, right? To push them to ask questions during classes, and even sometimes, like with my students, I am very straightforward, and I think this is what they loved about me, because there was no hiding or anything. I would tell them, look, when I write on the whiteboard, I make spelling mistakes because I don't know how to write on a whiteboard. I can write on a paper. If you see a mistake, let me know.
That's a different angle, right?
I can't. I just don't know how to write like that. So correct me. And if I say something that I don't know, or I say something and then suddenly I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure about that information. Can somebody look it up? I'm just honest with them, because that's the way it is. And then I tell them, okay, so you have to ask me questions. The more questions you ask me, the more information you will get.
Yeah.
The more information you will get, the easier it will be for you to process anything and to be able to go through that whole process in school year without any problems.
Yeah.
And so if we teach children that, I mean, I teach my children to ask all the time, and I've got like a million questions for my son sometimes that I go like, okay, that's enough. No more questions. Just do what I say for now.
There is a point where you have to hear the question.
Yeah. Because
we
start asking questions. They're elaborate in the beginning, and then they go into, okay, but then explain this, and then why that, and then how is this, and then, okay, that's too much now. Just stick to what you know for now. You're still 9 years old.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But maybe there's something that people can really, I'd love to just kind of explain.
Yeah.
I always talk about a power of 6. If you ask the same question 6 times slowly, right? 6 times slowly, there is a power within that question, within that repetition of that very same question. And in NLP, it always goes down those neurological levels, right?
Yeah.
It fits. Each time you ask the question, the first time it'll answer, it's often very surface. And then when you ask the question again, it goes a little deeper. Correct. And the reason is because our brain is processing in a particular kind of way. It processes sort of like information coming forward. And we want to get to a clear idea or a clear concept or a clear revelation, right? Yeah. So when you ask that question, like when I said, Nancy Klein says, what do you think, feel, and want to do or act? When you ask it the first time, people will often give you an answer straight away.
Yeah.
Then you ask the same question slowly, you wait and you give them time to have heard it for themselves, right? And then you ask again. And this is why it's often good if you've got a problem to talk aloud.
Yeah.
That's why it helps to talk to other people, because not only are they having to hear, but we are rehearing ourselves. Yeah. And by doing that, we're getting more feedback into our brain. So by actually doing that, by asking the question, so the second time you ask, it actually activates more of our brain, right? So it activates more. And so the brain has more opportunity now to look for other connections.
Yeah.
So you ask again, each is like a cadence, like a rhythm, it's like a doof, 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 until we
mm.
get to the final doof, and then the realization comes out. So it's really useful to not stop until you've asked the same question 6 times, at
I
least
like
six
that. Yeah,
times.
I like 6 times, and it's
Nice and slow.
yeah,
6 is a magical number, by the way. It is a magical number. In alchemical, and you've done
yeah,
with with Egyptian
yeah,
stuff, so they're all into numbers. 6 is really one of the important
yeah.
ones. And so there's something very symbolic about that number, which somehow, I think if you think of a snowdrop and water drop, right?
Yeah,
It's 6
yeah,
sides.
it's hexagonal. Yeah, that's true.
So it's going up, da, 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 da.
Yeah,
And that is really important. I think if you want to think about it that way. So yeah, so when you do that, ideas come, they land, and often what it means is because you've done the cadence, it's allowed both your left and your right side of the brain to come more into balance. So each one is not just going forward, but it's coming
they're coming
close.
together and balancing
And you're
themselves.
not actually, and the fear, because often when we don't ask the question, we live in the fear. But if we ask the first question and then don't run away, but ask the second, we're actually moving forward in time.
Mm,
And we're also telling the body it's safe to ask these questions.
definitely. Yeah.
So it gets to kind of become more of a whole body kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. And those 6 questions, they just when you mentioned it this way, it's similar to how I process the core values of a person,
Yeah.
where I ask about the core values in the very start, and then I ask again the second time, and then I ask a third time, and then by the end of it, I usually ask about the core values with a story. So I take them
Good one.
I take them on a guided meditation, and we go through a whole set of things, and they just tell me what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're feeling, like that question, right? And and funny enough, it's in 6 stages.
We knew we had to bring that up.
Yeah. So it is
I
in
don't think
six
I've really talked
stages.
about the power of 6, but I
No,
use it. Yeah.
but it's in 6 stages, and at the end, they've given me a story
Mm.
where I can gather from it actually all the core values without them, because they're intuitive. They're coming from
Yeah.
their
They're core.
their core, exactly,
Yeah.
right? And they're not mentioning the word, so they're not saying, for instance, honesty, but they're talking about honesty in what they're seeing, feeling, hearing, tasting, um, and I like that. It's interesting. I didn't pay attention to it that deep when it came to questions, but I knew I had a 6 pattern somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when someone see, but this is like an insight, isn't it? There's a
Yeah,
highlight
yeah, yeah.
that's jumped up, and you kind of go, ah, right. Now what are you going to it's lit a spark, right?
It's
Now
it.
there's
That's it.
something. Yes, we can go down a tangent, or we can look at it and think about it from another from the perspective of, okay, so how would this inform my practice?
Yeah.
How would this inform how I approach this? So you don't have to change what you do in the sense of the bigger field. You don't have to go and do your restless stuff of,
Uh,
ADHD. In fact, it's really very powerful for ADHD.
yeah, but I mean, you've seen how I was working on my dissertation, like how focused I was because I loved it. I was like,
Yes. Yes.
but I mean, and this is basically what we want to share with our guest people that are watching us,
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
are following us, is that you 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 have to dig in within yourself to really understand your purpose. You don't just exist for the simple reason of existing. You have certain patterns in your life that have conditioned you. You have people that have conditioned you, parents, family, teachers, mentors, friends, and whether you accept that conditioning or not, there is still something underneath all of that that tells you if you liking that or not. And a lot of people live under that conditioning, as you spoke about earlier. Conditioned to follow, we're conditioned to
Mm.
just do the job, conditioned to many, many other aspects of it. And exploring that conditioning, exploring who you truly are with your core values, with what
Yeah.
you love, with what you enjoy, with how you see your life in the future. Asking 6 questions. How do you feel? How do you see? What do you want to do with it? All of these things, they help. Um, very few people, like we discussed, really go into life purpose and explore their purpose of being,
Yeah.
because it's not that simple. And especially alone. And
Yeah, and I just wanted to caveat back
yeah,
there. We have different life purposes. We have different
yeah.
different aspects in that life purpose, right? Well, let's say different threads to that life purpose. We may have, if we wound it all together, we would probably get all of what we're here for. But I think that, if you've been a traumatized person and you've developed certain patterns,
Mm,
then part of your purpose will be to dealing with those
correct.
things. And so
Yeah,
for a period of time, that would be your focus of that aspect of the purpose, but
of the purpose,
it's still
exactly.
about the whole part of the purpose, right? Because the whole part of the purpose is how are you being in life?
Mm,
Right?
mm, mm.
How you are living this life so that because although we're here for ourselves, we're here for others.
That's definitely, and that's the explanation of the ikigai. And
Yeah.
if you look into ancient Egypt, because I mention it as well, it's the Ma'at, right?
Yeah.
The 49 negative confessions of Anu, where you express what you have not done, right? And at the same time, if you look deep into the ancient Egyptian society, you will find that everybody over there had their specific purpose. And when you were talking about the thread, that reminded me of during a specific time, right? You have a certain thread where part of your purpose is to get rid of that trauma, or not get rid of it, but
To
resolve it.
resolve it, to heal.
Resolve it. That's the word, exactly. And so you can then shift into the core of your purpose, where always like the one what I use is that your life purpose protocol or
Yeah.
your motto in life, right? And those threads will connect with everything in your life, whether it's with friendship, self-development, health, career,
Yeah.
uh, leisure time. It will connect through everywhere. And I love when you use that thread word, because it just clicked with me, is that it's a thread throughout your life.
Yeah.
And you will see it develop and evolve, and sometimes just shift a little bit until you figure out specifically what that protocol of your life is,
Mhm.
and it will continue to
Yeah.
spread its threads around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely what it is. It's, for me, the idea is, what are you being?
Yeah.
And if you, like, for me, when at working as a conscious pregnancy coach, it's how am I being with this woman? What essence am I bringing here?
Yeah.
How do I support them? What is bigger than me, that is me, that I'm bringing to this to help this person expand into themselves in a different way, in their baby. So it's a bigger purpose. It's not about, and I can't see myself as just doing it alone. I just know that it's part of a bigger support network for others that are fitting in. I'm doing my unique bit of
Yeah.
it, but I'm doing it 100%, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm doing my bit 100%. And I think this is kind of like really important, is we have to always do our 100% of our bit to whatever we contribute to. So
I agree. I
if we're
agree.
going to learn how to be in a relationship, we need to be 100% responsible and aware of what we do in that relationship,
Mm. Mm.
how we are, right? How we are
Yeah.
being.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that would be in anything at work. How are we being? Are we being totally honest? Are we truly? Because if we're not being honest, we're gonna have dissonance, aren't we?
Definitely.
We're
Definitely.
not. We're gonna be worried that we're going to be found out. We're going to be worried about all sorts of things. So, what does it take to be honest, and how wonderful it feels?
Honest with yourself is that's what
Yeah.
we're talking about. Just so it's that honesty within yourself where you don't feel like you're that pain. I mean, it's painful when
Yeah.
when you know that you're being dishonest with yourself because you're, let's say, trying to please someone, and but you don't want to. I don't want to help you. I'm taking the
Go
simplest
away.
and basic things like, "Oh, I don't want to help you, but I can help them out of, I don't know, out of whatever it may be." So, I mean, we're coming to the end
Yeah,
of
close.
our call today and our live session. So, if you have a few words of encouragement for those that are uncovering their purpose for now, or what do you want to leave the audience with today?
Yeah. Yeah, I think a little bit like we were talking about this unfolding. I think really, you don't have to go out and find it. It's something you're already doing. What you need to be is uncovering it more so that you can see the expanse of what your purpose holds for you, right? So there are things that we talked about, the Ikigai. It's a stream
Yeah.
that then allows you to be able to thrive, not just thrive in the sense of thriving with money, but thrive in every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So yes, it's an unfolding, and don't be afraid to ask those 6 questions. Very simple. What do I think, feel, and want to do on each thing? If someone comes up with a problem, what do I think, feel, or want to do? Or what can you think? What do you think, feel, and want to do? And just hold the space, because what will happen is that the mission often shows itself very quickly.
Very true. I like that. I like that. Thank you, Shireen. From my end, I think since we're into psychology, both of us, I remembered a quote from Carl Jung, and
Yeah.
it was very related to purpose and our existence and being.
Yeah.
And he said, as far as I'm trying to quote him properly, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to explore your life. Don't be afraid to dig deep and lose actually people in your life, because you are evolving into being someone that you want to be. That's what I can leave the audience with today.
Yeah. It's a beautiful image, actually, because I immediately saw this dark room and I saw a match light.
Yeah.
But we can only see in light, right? But we need the darkness to really see the light brightly.
That's it. That's it.
So going inside is really, it's not an outside job. It's
It's not
going
an outside job.
inside where it is dark.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
But it's a comfortable dark. It's not a dark of displeasure.
It's not a displeasure and it's not of despair. It's a comfortable one,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like being in the womb. Yeah, you're going
Yeah.
back to the womb.
That's
Kind
it.
of, not really, but you're going back to that kind of womb where there was infinite potential, where you began.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And with that beginning, we
I'm going to end.
yeah, we're going to end. Something has to end. So, for all of you watching us, I hope you enjoyed our show today on Kosi Talk Show. We are here Monday to Friday, every day, 1 p.m. UK time. We wish you from the bottom of our hearts a lovely journey on your purpose and whatever it is that you may be doing in your life. And we will see you again soon. Take care, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for being